This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. The mother of a woman killed in a Newtown hit-and-run crash has told a court of her family's devastation in a powerful victim impact statement. 25-year-old Zachary Muir-Bennett today pled guilty to causing death by negligent driving after charges were reduced from manslaughter.
This suburban Newtown street is the scene of devastation for family and friends of Vanessa Hayward. She was driving through an intersection in June last year when a speeding car failed to give way, crashing into her, killing the 42-year-old. Zach Muir-Bennett was in the driver's seat of the other car, despite his learner licence being suspended. His lawyer telling the court he wasn't evading police but was trying to avoid them. Muir-Bennett fled the scene and was listed as wanted by police. The court heard he negotiated his surrender more than a week after the crash. He was charged with manslaughter, but today Muir-Bennett pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of causing death by dangerous driving. Prosecutors now say he should receive a sentence that acts as a deterrence, and his crime has several aggravating factors. He was going 80 kilometres an hour in a 50 zone. A number of people were injured as well, and there was a potential risk to others in the built-up area. The victim's mother gave a statement to the court, telling of the pain and devastation caused by the crash, saying, "I cannot forgive him for leaving her to die in the gutter."
She actually helped people. Statistically, she could have had another 40 years to do things like that. If the perpetrator goes to prison, statistically, he could have another 40 years to wreak havoc on society.
Speaking outside court today, Vanessa Hayward's family thanked the first responders to the crash, but they also called for action so a tragedy like this isn't repeated, to ensure families don't have to endure the pain they've suffered.
Something has to change, and this community has lost too many people to stupid, silly actions on the road.
Muir-Bennett's lawyer told the court he offers no reason or excuse and can't apologise enough. But rehabilitation is not beyond the 25-year-old. He'll be sentenced next week. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
The Prime Minister is refusing to engage in Tasmania's poker machine debate despite visiting a local pub with the pro-pokies lobby. Malcolm Turnbull avoided questions on poker machine regulation today, becoming useful fodder for the opposition.
An election uniform for the Prime Minister, high vis and a hard hat at Norski Skoog beefing up the state Liberal campaign.
What about Tasmania? Well, what about jobs here? They're looking pretty strong.
A jobs focus for Malcolm Turnbull today to follow a jobs focus last night.
Very good to be here. Hey, Will.
The PM joining the pro-poker machine lobby at the Foreshore Tavern, even a selfie with the ambassador of the Love Your Local campaign.
Well, I was in the bar of a pub with Will and a lot of people who were determined to protect Tasmanian jobs.
Malcolm Turnbull, however, refusing to engage in the poker machine debate.
So you'd like to see poker machines remain in some of Tasmania's poorest communities?
Well, again, the regulation of poker machines is a matter for the state government.
The fact that the Prime Minister was willing to stand next to the Premier in a pro-pokies venue with the pro-pokies ambassador just shows that they have been bought by this industry.
Labor with its own campaigner, the Whitlams lead singer Tim Friedman offering his support to blow up the pokies in pubs and clubs.
I'm probably the only punter in the history of Australia that's made money out of poker machines because I wrote a song about it.
Backing the pro-pokies lobby is backing vested interests against the welfare of our community.
It is highly recognised, regarded that we do have some of the toughest regulatory protocols and processes in place.
But the move doesn't pass everyone's pub test.
The Prime Minister doesn't seem to have any qualms about a Liberal Party policy that would deliver $250 million in a windfall gain to the industry if the Liberals win government.
What this will do is ensure that pubs and clubs in local communities are able to invest more and providing even greater services to the local communities.
Last night's warm welcome, now today's uncomfortable goodbye.
Use GST to pay for health.
Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
While also in the state today, Malcolm Turnbull announced he wants to help clean up Launceston's Tamar estuary. Joining Premier Will Hodgman, the pair committed to spend almost $100 million to remove raw sewage from the river. The state opposition says it welcomes the announcement after the federal government ignored the issue at the 2016 election.
Malcolm Turnbull brushing off protesters, instead diving straight into his pledge to help fix the Tamar.
They said Australians wanted to talk about the real issues, and in Launceston, my Lord Mayor, I reckon they want to talk about the health of the Tamar, wouldn't you say? Absolutely.
For decades, raw sewage has seeped into the river. The Liberals say 12 recommended projects by the Tamar Estuary Task Force will help clean that up, with both the state and federal parties committing $47.5 million each towards improvements.
These are system upgrades, catchment upgrades. These are really important measures to improve the health and the health of this estuary.
Not only will the river be cleaner, more than 70% of the sewerage load will be reduced.
But while the federal share is locked in, the state's half will depend on which party wins the March 3rd election. So far, only the state Liberals have promised funds.
Well, the Labor Party had a commitment at the last federal election of $75 million. We hope that the announcement today isn't contingent upon the election result in 2 weeks' time, because this is an issue that should be delivered upon by the federal government.
If the funding all flows through as has been promised, the 12 projects should be completed within 5 years. But as for the river's silt issues, they're still stuck in the mud.
We'll continue the work with the silt, which is obviously very important. That will continue on as well. So it's a very important step, but obviously it's not the final step.
Construction work on the new upgrades is expected to start next year. Monica Dadsen, Southern Cross News.
Tasmania's peak farming body is calling for a stronger response to the state's fruit fly incursion, saying it's disappointed the control zone had to be extended. The zone was yesterday pushed out further on the eastern side after suspected larvae was found at a property near Devonport. The TFGA now wants manned checkpoints on major roads in and out of the zone and better signage.
So from a TFGA perspective, this isn't about pointing fingers. We just see the government can take a stronger stand on biosecurity and, importantly, to eradicate this fruit fly.
We've made it absolutely clear that any resources that are required by biosecurity TAS to deal with this fruit fly incursion will be provided. They have a blank cheque to sort this.
Investigations into Devonport larvae and a suspected adult fruit fly caught at Georgetown earlier this week are continuing. Meanwhile, the Greens also today unveiled its biosecurity election policy, pledging $15.5 million over 4 years. The funding to go towards improving climate change research and employing 20 new biosecurity staff. A jury is set to begin deliberations next week in a Central Highlands murder trial. Russell John Nowachinski has pleaded not guilty to murdering his friend Donald Crowe during a shack trip in June 2016. In closing arguments today, his defence lawyer said Mr Crowe turned on the accused in an isolated location and he had to fight for his life. Kim Baumler says, as well as self-defence, the jury should also consider if Mr Crowe was fatally hit by someone else's car after the fight. Referencing the Paul Kelly song, If I Could Start Today Again, she said her client had asked that question many times since the death. Tasmanian authorities have yet to comment further on the death of 16 prized polo ponies which died on the Spirit of Tasmania late last month. All 16 horses had competed at the Barnbougle polo event at Bridport on January 20 and were being transported to Victoria a week later when they died. The horses were from New South Wales and belonged to the Willow Polo Club. An initial Australian Marine Safety Authority investigation found the Spirit of Tasmania had complied with requirements relating to the carriage of livestock. The investigation remains in the hands of the Department of Primary Industries, Land, Water and Planning. Tasmanian beekeepers say a destructive parasite which has been killing bees around the world will eventually reach Australia. The Varroa mite is reported to have almost wiped out feral bees in the US and Canada and poses a significant threat to the state's agricultural industry.
Thick, rich honey from the bees to the jar, a multi-million-dollar industry which could soon be under threat due to a deadly parasite.
When we know when Varroa gets into the country that basically all of our feral bee numbers, all our feral bee stocks will disappear, possibly within 4 or 5 years.
Described as the destructor, the Varroa mite attaches itself to the bee, weakening its immune system.
It's a parasite, so not only does it suck the bee's blood effectively, but it also carries a lot of viruses and also some bacteria as well. So it spreads a lot of viruses around through the populations, which also impacts on bee numbers.
Not only is the state's thriving honey industry at risk, but also crops that rely on bee pollination, such as cherries and apples. However, there is hope, and Australian researchers are leading the way.
Determine ways that we can manage Varroa before it gets here. So it's something that nowhere else in the world has really been able to work on. So they wait until Varroa gets here and then try and work out how to manage it.
Tasmania hopes to receive 6 new state-of-the-art smart hives which are built to detect the Varroa parasite. They also have cameras and a trapdoor in them.
If a feral hive of bees alights from a ship with Varroa destructor, they'll be picked up instantly and trapped within that little hive, and then we'll take that away and test it. Like a meteor coming into Earth, we get 3 or 4 a year sometimes coming in, detected by our very good biosecurity systems that we have in Australia.
The Varroa parasite has been intercepted by quarantine at our borders in the past, but at this stage Australia remains clear. Rita Risk, Southern Cross News.
More than 200 athletes from around the world will go head-to-head in the Devonport Triathlon tomorrow. A crowd of up to 500 is expected to watch the athletes compete in both the Para-Triathlon World Cup and Oceania Championships.
The sprint distance triathlon will be the elite males and females in the para-tries, and that'll be a 750 metre swim, 10 kilometre bike ride and a 20 kilometre bike ride and a 5 kilometre run.
New South Wales triathlete Charlotte McShane says tomorrow is a warm-up for the Commonwealth Games.
That's part of the reason why I wanted to come down here, is to help me prepare for the Commonwealth Games, which is only a few weeks away now. So yeah, hopefully I can get a good hit out tomorrow and get some confidence leading into that.
Rio Olympian Ryan Bailey is also among this year's competitors. The event is in its 33rd year and is the only para-triathlon hosted in Australia. Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has closed slightly lower after a late softening of gains for healthcare stocks, pushed higher by positive profit reports. The ASX 200 index fell 5 points. Short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 79.66 US cents and 84.28 Japanese yen.
A century from Matthew Wade has helped the Tasmania sit in the box seat during day one of their Sheffield Shield clash at Blunston Arena. Simon Malenko, the other standout with the bat, with the Tigers in the box seat a short time ago.
Bo Webster provided the home side with their first boundary before providing the visitors with their first scalp of the day.
Oh, that is a gem. That is an absolute gem. Holder straight through, bat and pad.
Alex Doolan following soon after on 12, and his skipper didn't last much longer.
Big shout, and no doubt about that one, that is out. Umpire raised his finger straight away.
Jake Doran and Matthew Wade set about salvaging the innings, with the pair picking up the tempo after the lunch break.
Nicely cut there by Jake Doran. Now we'll race around way to the boundary for 4. Excellent start.
Doran continued to edge slowly towards 50 before being cut short on 37. McDermott the next to fall on 14, but Wade wouldn't prove as easy to dismiss, notching up his 50 before Simon Malenko began to fire. But it was Wade who proved the hero of the day, adding another domestic ton to his name to get the Tigers back in the box seat.
Meantime, the Roar remain winless on the bottom of the WNCL ladder after a 7-wicket loss to New South Wales in Lindisfarne today. After bowling Tassie all out for 175, the Breakers quickly got to work at the crease, with Rachel Haynes notching up 92 not out as the Roar struggled to find answers with the ball. It took the visitors just 27 overs to reach the total, delivering the Roar their 4th loss on the trot. They take on ACT at the Kingston Twin Ovals on Sunday. The Commonwealth Games dream is still alive for several Tasmanian athletes following last night's nomination trials, with sprinter Jack Hale winning his heat in a time of 10.41 seconds to progress to the next round, while Morgan Gaffney won her heat in just under 12 seconds to also progress. In the men's 5,000 metres, a third placing by King Island's Stuart McSwain was enough to see him through, as was Dean Kenzie's third place effort in the men's 800 metre ambulant event. A record number of participants are expected to compete in this Sunday's Run the Bridge for the 9th edition of Australia's richest 10-kilometre road race.
The full bridge closure has obviously been an attraction to many people. They're coming down in droves from all over the country. We've got 7 countries involved and every state.
Three-time winner Liam Adams will start favourite in the men's race, while Aussies Lisa Waitman, Millie Clark and Virginia Maloney will be hoping to hold off a strong international contingent in the women's. For the first time in 45 years, professional wrestling will this weekend return to Launceston's Albert Hall. The ring is all set up, with the pros practising their moves today ahead of tomorrow night's Tasmanian Championship Wrestling show.
It's going to be explosive. They're never going to have seen anything like this. We've got a variety of matches. We've got women's matches, we've got tag matches, we've got a tables, ladders and chairs match, and we also have a TCW Championship match.
The night's highlight is expected to be the match between Eddie Jones and Diablo. Action begins at 6:30.
Good evening. Hobart 18 degrees today, Launceston and Burnie 21, Devonport 22, and that was the state's high, also recorded by St Helens and Friendly Beaches. Partly cloudy with a shower over the west and far south today. Wynyard 21 degrees, Lowhead, Campania and the Islands all 19, Bushy Park 18, Grove 17 today and Strawn 16 degrees. Getting cooler. The area of open cellular cloud in the cold air mass is right over Tasmania and to the south. More compact low-level cloud to the southwest of the state is due to a high pressure ridge ahead of another cold front well to the west. Now low cloud across the state today, more broken over the west and south in the turbulent atmosphere. Tomorrow the westerly airstream continues as a front approaches our southwest. A tropical low is off the Kimberley coast in that monsoon trough that dominates up there. Now the westerlies will turn more northwesterly tomorrow at 15 to 25 knots, stronger over the west and up to 35 knots over southern waters with swells between 3 and 5 metres. Gale warning current from southeast Cape to Low Rocky Point and a strong wind warning for most other waters, a small craft wind alert for the lakes. Into the weekend we go, and 24 for Hobart, fine until a late shower. Showers increasing for Maydena, 21 and 23 the high for Oatlands, a cloudy day. For Launceston cloudy as well, 23 the top, 22 for Devonport. A shower developing for Lyowini, 3 overnight, 16 tomorrow. Burnie a shower or two, 22 the top, 20 for Strawn and Marrawar, 21 degrees, all with a bit of a shower or two, and cloudy over the east. St Helens 23, 25 for Swansea and Orford 24 degrees. UV very high again. On Sunday, showers over the west and south in the morning and over the northeast in the afternoon. Fine on Monday apart from a possible morning shower over the north, and on Tuesday fine and partly cloudy with east to northeasterly winds. Partly cloudy in Perth tomorrow, sunny for Adelaide and Melbourne, bit of cloud for Sydney and a shower or two, and 31 degrees for Brisbane. And the current conditions, a little bit cloudy, 15 degrees in Hobart, partly cloudy in Launceston, 18 right now, and 17 degrees in Devonport. Now, due to my injury, Joe, I will be unable to take part in the Devonport Triathlon or the Run the Bridge. I know, I could have won both of those events, but not to be this weekend. I am a bit perturbed, though, about the latest weather information. The Bureau are telling us that we're going to have a very wet autumn. We've had a very cold end to summer, so I don't know what's happening with the weather, but I'll try to fix it over the next couple of days.
I'm intrigued as to what injury you've got. I'm not aware of any injury. Thank you very much, Merv. Have a lovely weekend. And that is all from the Southern Cross News team for now. We will, of course, see you with updates throughout the evening. Bye for now.